Good morning, my friends. This is week 5 of Launch Your Business, and we're going to talk about supporting your team. So I'm going to be talking about some stuff that is not in the launch guide and just some tips and ideas of things that we have been doing and having really good luck with. So I'm going to mute everybody first, just so it stays quiet. And if you have questions, just you can unmute yourself and yell out if you have something that you just really feel like you need to say. You could share it with us. So I'm going to share my screen and we're going to go through the launch guide together. So last week we were focusing on getting enrollments. And, I shared this story on my, Healthy Living Essentials business, but I wanted to share it again because I think it is so relevant to what we're doing as a business with doTERRA. So I was flying home on Monday or Saturday from Ohio, and I had a 4-hour layover in Atlanta. And I was going to be getting home at midnight, and I was really tired because I hadn't slept well a couple of nights before. I'd had to wake up at 5, I was tired. And so the thought of a 4-hour layover kind of made me want to die a little bit. And I was like, I don't want to hang out at the airport in Atlanta for 4 hours until 11 o'clock at night and then hop on a flight. Well, I noticed that my flight was going to be landing from Columbus to Atlanta was going to be landing like a few minutes early, like 15 minutes early. And so I hopped on and looked to see if there was an earlier flight from Atlanta to Kansas City. And there was, but it only had there was 20 minutes between when my flight arrived and when the other one took off. And you technically have to be at your gate 10 minutes before the flight, because that's when they close the doors. So anyway, I went and checked in and said, hey, is there any way I could get on this flight? And the lady said, well, I'll give you a standby ticket. And then if you don't make it, you'll still have your ticket on your original flight. So we landed and I literally ran. I had 10 minutes. And of course I was running from the very back of the B terminal all the way up to the hallway, past 20 gates. Then I had to get on a train and then I had to run back to the end of the F concourse. And I was running and I thought I was going to throw up a couple of times because I was running so hard carrying a suitcase. Now, running hard, don't picture what is his name? Usain Bolt. Is that his name? Why do I feel like that's not his name? Anyway, but the Jamaican track star. Anyway, I'm probably saying his name wrong. But don't picture some Olympic athlete. Picture someone who is works out maybe twice a week, 2, 3, 4 times a week, running through the airport, dragging the suitcase, I had this big heavy bag, and then I was carrying another bag with a blanket in it. And I kept thinking, I'm not going to make this. There's just no way. I only have 10 minutes to get to this gate and I'm running, but then I would stop for a minute and just power walk. Cause I was thought I was going to puke. And then I'd start running again. And I'm like, it's going to be worth it if I make it. It's going to be worth it if I make it. And I kept running. And then I was on the train. And at that point I had no control. I can't control how fast the train goes. We were on the B terminal and it stops at C, D, E, and F, of course. And I'm getting off at F. And it's probably a minute to 2 minutes between each stop. And I'm like, that's 8 minutes right there. So I got off the train, literally had 1 minute to get up 2 escalators and get to my gate, or 2 minutes. And I wasn't looking at my phone at this point. And I was just running thinking, I'm not going to make this. Why am I even trying? This is stupid. And I wanted to stop and not even try. And I got there and my flight was a little bit delayed. And so I was able to get on that flight. Not only was able to get on, but they had seats on that flight for me. And I was just so grateful that I kept going, even though I wanted to quit. I didn't want to be running through the airport. I'm like, I'm going to be out of breath, sweaty, and stinky, and then I'm going to have a 4-hour layover. And I made it. And I was just so grateful. And I thought, you know what? This is how I feel in my business. I don't know if I'm going to make my goals the months I want to make them, but I'm sure going to give it a try, because then I know I did my best and I'm not going to wonder what would have happened if I would have tried. Now, and the truth of it is, I would have gotten on another flight. I wasn't stranded in Atlanta. Same thing with your business. You may not hit your goal when you want to, and somebody that you want to share with may, in fact, turn you down. But there are other people. There are other ways. There are other flights to catch, even if it gets you there a little later than what you wanted. So that was my little analogy that I kept thinking of. This is like doTERRA as I'm running through the hall. So this week, we're focusing on supporting your team. And, what I want you to focus on supporting, I always like people to focus on supporting both users and builders, because you're going to have both. Most of what you will have is going to be users. So I really want you to have a really good way to support, sorry, I'm checking my phone across the room so I'm not distracted by it. I want you to find a good way to support your team. And I want you to have just a good system down so you're not feeling overwhelmed by the thought of having a lot of enrollments, because it is. So with every enrollment, I do a wellness consult or a lifestyle overview. I'm so sorry, you guys, when I yawn. But I do a lifestyle overview. And I put them into HLE product support because that is my product support group. And I invite them to oil camp. So reach out to the nearest diamond above you and ask if they're doing oil camp. And if they're not, maybe suggest it to them. I personally do not run my own oil camp, but all of my leaders, 5 of my 6 leaders run an oil camp. So I love it because basically it walks people through 14 days of very basic training on the oils that are in the family essentials / home essentials kit. So it's a really good opportunity for people to learn about those basic oils. And it's fun to see people, like, I know how to use On Guard, but I forget that not everybody knows those basic things. And so putting them in oil camp reminds them of those basics of how to use those oils, and so they have a lot of success. So I love oil camp. So when I enroll somebody, I do a membership overview / lifestyle overview / wellness consult, whatever you want to call it, with them. I invite them to do a class. I put them in HLE product support, and I put them into oil camp. I let them know there will be an oil camp that starts mid-April. Please be on a lookout for an invite that comes from Eventbrite. Anyway, so that's what I do. So that's how I support my people that I have just enrolled. Now, I also like to do a monthly continuing education class, whether it's for my local people. So this month I'm going to do one on cleaning products. I've done them on Valentine's, or in February, I did a Valentine's themed class, and we made chocolates with essential oils. You guys, seriously, stop what you're doing right now and write this down. If you put cinnamon oil in chocolate, it tastes like cinnamon covered or chocolate covered cinnamon bears. If you've ever had those, it's amazing. So I just got the chocolate just that you can put into molds, and I mixed, you just melt the chocolate and you put in like a couple of drops of cinnamon. It's amazing. So I showed people how to make that, and I got little heart-shaped chocolates. So it was awesome. Okay. Don't forget that. It's really good gifts for like your classes. It can be a good way to invite somebody. It can be a great thing to take to teachers. And you can put a little note in there that says made with essential oils. So amazing. So I've done that. I've done a cooking class before, and this month it's going to be cleaning. So I like to continue to have my people feeling educated and feeling like they belong to a community, because that's really important. So that is how I enroll or support my users. Now, if I have anybody that says they want to build the business, that's awesome. So what do? The first thing that someone says, I want to build. Well, I go through the build guide with them that you find on sharesuccess.com. If you are not feeling confident in doing a business overview, that's totally fine. You have 2 options. You can invite the person who enrolled you that works with you to do that business overview. And the other thing you can do is you can, if they're not available, you can play the business overview right from the Share Success site and have somebody watch it on there, which is amazing. Now, the cool thing about doTERRA is it's totally, it's, what is it? Monkey see, monkey do. You want your team to be doing exactly what you're doing. You have been doing this launch training. You can totally support somebody doing the launch training that you have just been doing now. So start them on this same launch training. Now, you can put time and effort into walking them through it. What I would recommend is putting your time and effort into building the business, plugging them into my launch training that's already done, and you work with them on a weekly basis in a mentoring capacity. Just help walk them through what you have just barely been through. So that's my advice. I wouldn't spend all of your time creating programs, creating your own Facebook, creating, trainings. Focus on building, finding, sharing, enrolling, teaching, and then let the programs that are already going be what supports your builders. Now, you're going to be there with them through it, but it allows you to have more time to bring in more people. So we're going to look through page 19 and 20 of this guide, because that talks about how to mentor, and anybody can mentor. Honestly, what you're doing is just walking through somebody what you exactly, what they're doing. So I like to have a weekly mentor call with the people that I have enrolled and that are committed to doing the business. Now, when I say committed, that means people who are sharing, hosting classes, and actively working on the business. Because if they want to build, but they're not really doing anything, we don't really have anything to talk about. But if they're actively building, they're going to have tons to talk about. Even I have a mentor. I don't meet with him weekly per se, but I meet with him, once or twice a month, kind of as needed on my end. But I found myself in a situation yesterday where I thought, I need to talk to my mentor about this, because I realized I've been going to networking groups and I'm not quite sure how to maximize a networking group where you're really never going to see these people for another year. So I'm like, well, how do I get the most out of 30 seconds in talking to someone? So anyway, I just realized, that's a great thing to talk to my mentor about. So on your mentor calls, schedule your weekly call and decide how you're going to talk. Is it going to be on Zoom? Is it going to be on a phone call? And, figure out your time. I think it's really important to be positive. I think that's the number one thing. Now, I need to work on being on time. I will tell you that as a weakness of mine is calling people late, and I need to work on that. But I like the idea of following the success check-in as an indispensable tool for success and growth. Come prepared to discover your own solutions rather than expecting your mentor to solve everything for you. A lot of times you will, like the person you're mentoring, will be able to come up with their own solutions just talking to you. And the point for you is not to know everything. Let the launch guide and the launch videos be the experts. You don't know everything. I don't know everything. I will share my experiences and say, you know what? That has worked well, but one thing that I have found that works better is X, Y, and Z. So you want to make sure that you're positive in your calls. Here is a great guide that you can follow when you're mentoring. I love talking about what's going well. I have kids I have twins, and I picked them up at preschool one day, and all the teachers wanted to do is tell me about how stupid my kids were. Literally, like, they don't know their alphabet. They don't know their numbers. They don't know all these things. They shouldn't be going to kindergarten. Okay, my twins are very tall. I'm 6 feet tall. My husband's 6'2". We do have tall children. And to be told they need to be held back, I'm like, if I hold my daughter in particular back, she will look like a fifth grader in kindergarten. Like, she is literally not a fifth grader, but she's literally as tall as a lot of the girls in my first graders class. And she's 4. So she's tall, the same height as a lot of 7-year-olds. And so I'm thinking, I can't hold her back. And so I went and took them and got some testing done. And the school that I tested them at specialized in kids with special needs. And they looked at me like, why are you here? Like, your kids are totally normal and they're totally fine. Because all they wanted to do was tell me what was negative going on with my kids. They didn't want to tell me that they're preschool. They didn't want to tell me any positives, and it left me feeling really yucky. So in your mentoring calls, don't start out with what's negative. We all have negative in our lives. We want to hear what's positive. So whenever I pick up my kids now, I have literally started saying, so what went well today? Because I know there are positives. I have my twins more than anybody does, and I know that there are positives with them. They're cute. And there's a lot of really great things about them. And no, maybe they don't know how to read a book yet on their own, but they're also 4 years old. And so I don't want to spend all of my time talking about what's negative and what they don't do. I want to talk about what they're doing well. Same thing with your mentor calls. Focus on your wins and victories. So what is working and then what's not working? Because it's important to talk about what's not working. And then it's good to be accountable to talk about what you're doing for your pipes worksheet. And then setting your goals and intentions. One thing I like to have everybody do is send me an email with what they're going to be working on that week. I want to hear what their goals are and plans are. Excuse me for my continued yawning. My goal is to go to bed early tonight. And always having a place of where you're working towards is huge, and sharing that with your mentor is absolutely amazing or important. So you need to share with your mentor, okay, or if you're mentoring somebody, same thing. If someone wants to hit Elite or Premier, I had someone come to me and say, I want to hit Premier next month. And I said, okay, that's awesome. So how many classes do you think it's going to take to hit Premier? What type of volume do you typically have at each class? So, if you need 5,000 in volume, like let's say you were starting from scratch and wanted to hit 5, Premier in a month, you would need to be prepared to do, 10 to 20 very well qualified classes to be able to hit that. Yes, you'll have classes where there's 1,000 in volume. Yes, but you'll also have classes where you just sell one family physician kit. So I always tell people, break that up, average, 200 to 500 per class. And if your average is 100 in volume per class, then you're going to need to do 50 classes that month. So be prepared. Wait, that would be 50 times 100 would be 5,000, right? Yeah. So you want to make sure that you're being realistic and go to make sure that your actions match what your goals are for that month. And talk about that with your mentor for sure. So encouraging and supporting your team is huge. Now, also realize it is not your responsibility for someone else to be successful. I have a lot of people come to me and say, I couldn't be successful because I didn't have anybody mentoring me, or no one has been placed below me. And you guys, it is up to you to be successful. A mentor makes it much easier and guides you along the way. But I look at Haley Hobson, who's a double presidential diamond. I don't think Haley really had a mentor. Pretty much, I think she had her and then a bunch of elites between her, several. And then there was a diamond. And I think she's on that diamond's 8th level or something like that. But the point is she didn't really have any mentoring and she figured it out. So that doesn't mean you don't need to be mentored or it doesn't help. It just means you can be successful either way. You truly are responsible for your own success. And we have all of these really great programs and resources for you to be successful that, that I've been showing you. So I want to make sure that you realize that mentoring is so important and can be so amazing, but you can still do it even if you're feeling like, I don't have a mentor, or if you're feeling a lot of pressure to make somebody successful. It's ultimately their success. It's up to them and not to you. You can do your best, but you can't make them do the things that you're teaching them. I would also encourage you not to have a negative bashing session in your mentoring. We all have builders that frustrate the tar out of us. We all have them. We all have, people that are a little bit draining to talk to and work with. And it's important not to spend our time talking about this, but talking about what's going well. It's important to identify the things that aren't going well, but don't dwell for hours on that and all of your time and energy. Focus on what you can fix, not what you can't, because that won't get you anywhere. So these are just a few of my little mentoring tips. And again, I don't want you spending all of your time mentoring. I want you spending most of your time building your business. But you want to work with your key people that are wanting to, sorry, I'm trying to get back up to the top, that are going to help you reach your goals. But you also want to make sure that this is not where all of your time is being spent as well, especially at this point in the game. You really do need to be focusing on building your business. So we have 1 week left in this training. Enjoy the videos that are here this week. There's a lot of really great people that you will hear from. And most importantly, have an awesome day.